It's gonna be fun because I finally got this camera going, John. We tried to do this video about 3 days ago. The Houston Texans now know who their head coach is. Actually, like, let me ask you about that. How do you feel about Nick Caserio letting these guys pick pretty much their staff, pretty much like their boys?
I'm excited about it. I think it's some self-restraint from Casario that I did not know whether or not we could expect. So that alleviates some concerns, but it does raise additional questions about what happened with the other candidates. We all assumed it was about staffing concerns. I would love to hear when the story comes out eventually about what happened there. If it was because of Casario caring about the accessory staff, if maybe Nick only cared about the coordinators, and once the coordinators were in place, he was like, y'all can hire whoever you want at your position groups. But you're right. Overwhelmingly, these are guys who are close with Lovey or close with Pep Hamilton, which I think is a good sign.
Yeah, something that is a good sign because if Josh McCown got hired or gets hired, it's always that it's going to be in the back of my mind that this might be the future head coach. This is the head coach in
Mhm.
waiting. Something that what like coaches are already going to have an issue with. I would obviously Pep Hamilton and Lovey Smith would. But besides that, dude, free agency is damn near 2 to 3 weeks away. The
Mhm.
players are talking about it. We've seen Lonnie Johnson try to recruit some players. I'm
Yes.
actually excited. So I'm gonna give the people five. You're gonna give them five. Now I'm
Mhm.
gonna go ahead and actually let you, Mr. Crump, go first. Who was your number one pick?
So my number one guy, if we're starting with the quarterbacks, is Marcus Mariota.
Mm.
For those of you who follow me on Twitter, I've been writing articles about all these guys all week. Feel free to go check those out. But I think everyone agrees that we need to bring in a veteran quarterback to compete with Davis Mills. And Marcus Mariota is my guy. I think he's young enough to push Davis, which is important. Mills is going to have more than enough support in the room. Pep Hamilton is the quarterback whisperer. They've hired two additional offensive assistants that were both former quarterbacks. I don't think we really need to bring in someone that's more of a mentor than looking to start. As much as it is, we should be looking to bring in someone who we think he's more talented than, but wants to compete. So, what I love about Mariota, he's got plenty of experience in the league. He's probably somewhere between the 28th and 40th best quarterback in the NFL. If Davis Mills can't beat that guy in a quarterback competition, then Davis Mills isn't our franchise quarterback, anyways. I bet the deal would come in somewhere between 7 or 8 million, and then you have incentives based on playing time. So a little more expensive than Tyrod Taylor last year, but it would probably be less incentive laden than Tyrod's deal as well. And then finally, if Davis Mills did, well, I assume he would win a quarterback competition with Marcus Mariota. Mariota can be used on the ground game. This is a team that, I mean, we finished dead last in the NFL last year and run the ball. I think 82 yards a game. We were awful. And we need to find ways to generate on the ground. And I think bringing in Mariota to run a little read option in short yardage situation, like on 3rd and 1 or at the goal line, would be just another wrinkle for this team. Give defenses something else to prepare for in the week leading up to playing the Texans.
Yeah, I don't mind Mariota. The only thing is, like I said, you bring him in, he's going to competition with Davis Mills. You brought up a quarterback. I'm gonna raise you one opposite of your young guy who could still compete, and that is Jacoby Brissette. Widely veteran, up there in age, around the 30s, but could still play football. And I think this is Davis Mills' teams, what he did in the last 5 games of the season, almost 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, but show that he could be a capable starter. And Jacoby Brissett is going to come in, basically mentor him, show him how it is to be a pro. He's been in that, Nick Caserio era of football. So, you got to love the Patriot connection there, but it's all about, to me,
Mhm.
is the progression of Davis Mills. I think, each one of our approaches is good. You're going more of the competition, whoever the best man
Mhm.
wins. And I'm trying to just develop this guy and see what he has.
Yeah. I mean, I think Brissett's pretty similar. He's a really big quarterback. I actually think Miami and Indianapolis in the past have used him. They bring him in for quarterback sneaks because he's so big. He's probably a little less talented than Marcus Mariota. I
Mm.
don't know if you would agree with that. I think his ceiling's probably a little a little lower, but his floor might be higher just because we've seen him as a backup for so long. We know exactly how he prepares and how he manages that role. But another guy is probably somewhere between 30 and 40 in the best NFL quarterbacks. I wouldn't mind Brissette at all.
Yeah, no, it's just crazy how we go from Deshaun Watson to Marcus Mariota and Jacoby Brissette.
We'll speak his name. Not strong enough.
Number 2 on my list is Emmanuel Agba, the defensive end from the Miami Dolphins. Pairs someone on the opposite side of Jonathan Grenard. He's good in the running game. He's good rushing the QB. If you want to go by Pro Football Focus, has that 77 grade. But I love the pairing of another edge on the opposite side of Jonathan Grenard. I think Grenard might be a stud in the making. Should have been, should have had that 10-sack season, was on pace for 12-13, which would have been crazy. And hey, if you bring in someone on the opposite side of the edge, he's only 28 years old. His game does translate because he uses technique. He uses strength. It's not, pure just athleticism. In the draft, number 3 overall, man, Kyle Hamilton is there.
Yep.
So a lot of stuff in free agency that you could do that would definitely affect the draft. But Emmanuel Agba, good against the run, good against the pass rusher, and someone you won't have to spend a lot of money on. Wouldn't mind the Houston Texans bringing up and beefing the defensive line.
So the money issue is something I'll push back on. So you brought up Pro Football Focus. I'm reading. They do a great top 200 projected free agents. They're saying he would come in at 3 years, $47 million. So $15.5 million per year. Right now we have 17 in cap space. And obviously I think we're going to free up some cap space when we trade Deshaun Watson. We're going to free up some cap space when, fingers crossed, we trade Laramie Tunsil. But would you feel comfortable allocating close to half of our free agent budget on Agba?
I don't think he's getting 45 mil. PFF said that, but immediately there was, Dolphins people saying, no, there's no way I'm offering like this much to them. People were saying giving them 11 to 12 mil a year. I'm definitely in that price range. That's certainly enough for him. 45 mil, I'm not doing it. Who is your number 2 on the list?
All right, my number 2 guy, I wrote an article on him today, actually, is Marlon Mack. You brought up Nick Caserio likes hitting singles. This would be the definition of that. Marlon Mack, I think we're all familiar with him from his time in Indianapolis. He had 900 rushing yards in 2018, and he ran for over 1,000 yards in 2019 before the team drafted Jonathan Taylor early in the second round in 2020. He tore his Achilles during the first game of the season. He had 4 carries before he tore his Achilles. And then this past year, he really wasn't able to work his way back up the depth chart. I spoke to the editor of the Colts Wire, and the way he described it is in Indianapolis system, the third running back has to be able to contribute on special teams. And since Marlon Mack couldn't do that, and Jonathan Taylor was eating up so many carries, and then Nyheim Hines has a big role, they just couldn't find a reason to make Mack active for the games. So this is a guy he's not going to get a big payday because he's coming off this injury, but he's got the track record to say he can do it. What he's going to be chasing is opportunity for volume because he just didn't get enough. He didn't get enough playing time in Indianapolis. He's going to want somewhere where he thinks he can compete and then get paid the next year get really well paid the next year after a good season. And I think Marlon Mack could join the roster and immediately be our best rusher in between the tackles. He would be a very cheap veteran solution to pair with potentially a rookie running back in the 3rd or 4th round. Someone that's definitely on my radar. Plus, always fun to bring a guy in from a division rival. Would be fun to see him go as hard as he could against the Colts.
One thing Marlon Mack is also good as is catching the ball in the backfield and making things happen. I think that was something that was under, value, like with the Colts. I immediately thought it was going to be him and Jonathan Taylor, like the 1-2 tandem. We've been asking for him for a while, John. I mean, he could come in and just, it's a low risk, high reward for me. Like you said, you don't have to pay him a lot, but he can come in, he can maybe get you 1,000 yards on the ground and maybe 300 to 400, like receiving if the offensive line is fixed damn well. I like your list so far, addressing the offense, quarterback, running back. For me, my third selection, Alex Kappa, the guard from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 27 years old. The thing about him is he just consistently got better every single year that he played for Tampa. The only thing was is like he just was very bad at the beginning. Coming off his best year, 70 grade in the run, 70 grade in the pass. His hair is what does it for me. I want, a veteran on the line. To me, the interior, the guards and center are issues for me. I mean, I like Justin Britt. He's a cheap starter, but could do some good. The guards are an issue. Alex Kappa. Well, this whole guard list is plentiful in the free agent, market with names like Corbord and Norwell and Sheriff. He's on the low end of the list. Very good guy. Bring him in day one starter and fix the trenches and starting the process of getting Davis Mills some help.
Yeah, and he's a guy that you could really take advantage of. Tampa Bay, they've got some guys that they have to pay. They're going to have some really hard decisions to make with the cap. And Pro Football Focus has Kappa listed at around $9 million. If you overpay just a little bit, he's one of those guys you can steal. And we should be willing to overpay some interior offensive linemen because that's going to help Davis Mills. That's going to help the run game. And that's the fastest way towards making our offense more functional next year, I think.
Kappa, like I said, only $9 million that he's projected, but still you might have to overpay for him because they're going to let a lot of people go. Chris Godwin, the safety Whitehead, their center. So they might lose a couple people and might have to overspend for Kappa, but we shall see. The offensive line is just huge for me.
Yeah, and going off of that note, the third guy on my list is Bradley Bozeman. He plays left guard. I think he played center the past year for the Ravens, but he could play any of the three interior positions. He was a multiple-year starter at the University of Alabama, and then for the past 3 years, he started every game for the Baltimore Ravens. And you want to talk about a team that runs the ball really well. Baltimore does that. Like Kappa, he brings a bit of a younger veteran. So Kappa's 27. Bradley Bozeman is also 27. I think Bozeman will be a little cheaper. They have him listed at closer to $7 million APY, but I think he's a guy you bring in. And like Kappa, this idea of sign a veteran interior offensive lineman and just forget about one of those three positions, it's fixed. And I'd like to bring Bozeman in for that reason.
Yeah, Bozeman to me is in the same group as Kappa. Like when I said that he was very bad at the beginning, it's true. Bozeman, they didn't know where to put him, either left guard. This was his first full season as a center, for the Ravens. Did damn good, consistently got better, had his career year here. He's looking for a payday. Bozeman is fantastic, bro. He's big country, but one thing about him, because he has Lamar Jackson back there, he has to consistently stay on his toes. Watch where Lamar Jackson has time to dance or he is running. Bozeman's head is completely on a swivel. He's aware of where all his linemen are and where the quarterback is. This is your captain of the offensive line. If you sign Bozeman, wouldn't mind it. The center market is huge. The guard market is huge. There's going to be a lot of people who the Houston Texans could bring in and fix the offensive line in a snap.
Yes. And we don't need three new guys. Just one or two would make a world of difference. And I think Bozeman could do that for us.
Yeah, and that's why I say I do want to bring in another center, but Justin Britt does it for me. If we could bring in two guards or sign one and then draft one, I wouldn't mind keeping Justin Britt. And he's obviously said that he wants to come back, and play for the Texans. Number 4 on my list, I'm going with someone who a lot of people don't know, but Marquez Valdez-Scantling, the 6'4" wide receiver from the Packers, was kind of injured, this year. Didn't really have a lot of receiving yards. However, the year before, let me just bring it up for you right here. He had 33 catches, 690 yards, and 6 touchdowns in 2020. And then this year, 430 yards, 3 touchdowns, was limited to a hamstring injury. This is the speedster 6'4" guy with reliable hands, could go up and get it. The guy who a lot of people are comparing to Robbie Anderson, Pep Hamilton, when he was with Andrew Luck, when he was with the DC Defenders in the XFL. He loves to throw the ball deep. And the Houston Texans, we have Nico Collins, who has good speed. Brandon Cooks has good speed. Marquez Valdes-Scantling has that 4.4 speed, could definitely go up and get it, takes the top off the defense. The one thing about him is he's not your number one. He's not your number two. Low end, number two, high, number three wide receiver for the Houston Texans. Has a big play ability. Won't spend money on him at all.
No, he'd be pretty cheap. And I think that we haven't seen the best out of him because he and Rodgers have really struggled to – I mean, anyone who watched Green Bay in the playoffs, Rodgers is really zeroed in on throwing the ball to Devontae Adams. So if we give him to a quarterback like Davis Mills, who really likes to spread the ball around, we didn't watch Davis play favorites even as a rookie. And you see rookies – obviously Brandon Cooks got a lion's share of the targets, but I don't think it was, I'm only going to throw the ball to Brandon Cooks like how you can see Green Bay operate. I think we could see Valdes-Scantling take another step forward in a different offensive system that doesn't funnel through one guy.
Absolutely. Who do you have at number 4?
Number 4, I have another receiver. I have a tight end, actually. I wrote on him earlier this week. O.J. Howard. 2017 first-round pick by Tampa Bay. OJ's had an interesting career. He was kind of on an upward trajectory. He caught 6 and then 5 touchdowns his first 2 seasons. His targets were going up every year. And then in 2019, he took a bit of a backseat. His targets went up. I believe his reception total went up, but his touchdowns, they kind of went down, which I'm not overly concerned about. That happens at the tight end position. But the big thing that happened to O.J. Howard is Tom Brady came to Tampa. And when Tom Brady came to Tampa, Rob Gronkowski obviously comes out of retirement to play with Brady. And Brady really likes his guys, his veteran wideouts. And in October of 2020, O.J. Howard tore his Achilles and he missed the rest of the season. So kind of a similar story to Marlon Mack. He comes back this year and he's buried on the depth chart. So, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Antonio Brown are receivers that Brady's looking at before him. And then Gronk and Cameron Brate at his own position group. And he's really buried. We have a talented guy who we haven't gotten to see the best of, or he's an unknown commodity right now. When he went down in Tampa, he was considered their best blocking tight end or one of their best. There was a lot of concern that Gronk would be their only blocking tight end. So clearly, I don't think he would be a negative in that department. I think he could help in Pep Hamilton's run scheme. But also he would be the most athletic guy that we have and be a nice pairing with Brevin Jordan.
Yes, O.J. Howard. Man, just like you said, as soon as he got here, he was buried on the depth chart. Cameron Brate and then Rob Gronkowski. He comes in. Him and Cameron Brate him and Brevin Jordan will be a crazy 1-2 tandem. Both could stretch the field. Both could definitely make plays happen. Like you said, O.J. Howard is a damn good run blocker. He comes in. He's obviously tight end 1. But I think the targets might be split. Wouldn't mind that at all. I like this tight end tandem. We've tried the receiving tight end with the blocking tight end. Hasn't worked out. All the tight ends that we've drafted or signed in the past 2 years haven't really done anything so far. So Brevin Jordan, O.J. Howard, wouldn't mind that whatsoever.
And to go back to your baseball analogy, we don't need to hit a home run at tight end.
Nope.
That's if you can hit a double there, if you can just find a meaningful contributor, tight end is just, for whatever reason, the Houston Texans have really struggled to find a good tight end in the last
ever since C.J. Fedorowicz went down.
No. We drafted C.J. We had a Kahale Warring, obviously, in the 3rd round of 2019. Jordan Akins now about to leave as a free agent. I just think you got to bring in a guy that you can hope can be a consistent, meaningful contributor, and O.J. Howard could perfectly fill that spot.
5 on my list, you definitely will. Connor Williams, the guard from the Cowboys. Houston Texans, if they bring this big behemoth in day 1, I am in. I am bought in. I am saying this is your home run guy. Getting better every single year. I think he's 26 or 27, was definitely overshadowed by the tackles, that the Cowboys have. You're in Jerry's world, and he's not a vocal guy. But every year he continues to get better. is best used in the zone blocking and running the ball. You know, they had Zeke back there, so that's what they thrived on. Is decent in the passing game, would definitely get better. But hey, he doesn't have to move that far. He only has to drive 3 hours from Dallas to Houston. And
Mm-hmm.
this is a big time, free agent that the Houston Texans could potentially get. This is a guy that you might have to throw the bag at, but if it fits the offensive line and helps the development of Davis Mills, you have to spend money to get wins now in the NFL.
Yeah. Funny, of the offensive linemen we talked about, PFF actually has him as the cheapest option. They project $7 million per year. I would do
Which
that.
I don't know why, because out of all the other guards like Austin Corbett, and he's the youngest, he's been the guy with less injury history. So I'm really not sure why they don't have him there as that. Another one is James Daniels, the guard from the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
But like I said, there's a lot of guards in this market, man.
It is. It's going to be, I mean, it's crowded, which is to the advantage of Houston, because that means if you're willing to pay a guy, you find someone you really like, and you go at above the market rate. And I mean, you can get someone really good who otherwise maybe they're not coming here in a year where there's less guards available.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you're right. He would be 25 years old at the start of next.
Yeah.
You can build around that. Yeah. So fifth guy on my list would be another person come in and help win football games. Another person I wrote on this week, Quandre Diggs. Like Connor Williams, a University of Texas graduate. Everywhere he's gone, dude has a ton of success. Worked his way up the Lions depth chart and was a great starting safety for when they traded him for pennies. They traded him with a 7th round pick for a 5th round pick to Seattle. And since then, Seattle's had a Pro Bowl safety at the cost of a 5th round pick. I think he had over 90 tackles last year. He's going to bring an older veteran presence to the secondary. Let's just be honest. So he's 29 years old. The secondary is probably our most talent efficient part of the roster. We need some plug and play guys. And Quandre Diggs could come in. He brings some veteran leadership that can actually play. If you take Kyle Hamilton, you have a great safety pairing all of a sudden, and something that's really versatile. I think that gives Lovey some leeway for the Tampa 2 system. Leadership, it's a desperate position in need. I think he's a guy you could convince to come back to Texas. He went to high school 30 miles away from NRG Stadium. I think it'd be a really good signing. He is going to have options. There's going to be some big contracts offered towards him. So a guy you might have to overpay a little bit. But looking at our defense and how bad our defensive back play has been, I would not hesitate to pay Quandre Diggs.
How much are you willing to give him?
Like 10 to 11 over 3 years, or 10 per year. Probably like somewhere $9 to $11 million. It just depends on what the market sets at safety. Obviously, we're all going to wait. I think Marcus Williams for the Saints that's his, and Jesse Bates. They're probably going to get the biggest contracts at the position, and based on what they get paid, you really can work your way down from there. But I think somewhere like 10.5, 11, I'd be okay with.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. Look, this was a good free agents list. I think we hit a lot of things on the head. The Houston Texans definitely need help on all phases of the ball. Might even need a kicker. John,
I would say we do. I would. It's a huge contract. We're paying him a lot of money to miss kicks.
A lot of money to miss kicks. John, let them know where they can find you, my brother.
All right, y'all can follow me at Texans Doc on Twitter. Also follow the Texans Wire. That's where all of my articles are. We're going to be producing a lot of content this offseason. Also, I'll drop this here. I haven't told anyone this. The Texans Wire podcast will be coming back in the next 2 weeks. It's going to be me and my editor, Mark Lane. I will, if you follow me on Twitter, I'll be pushing that out when we start it. But yeah, excited for the offseason.
For sure, for sure. Let me guys know what you think. As always, go Texans. You guys have a very blessed day.